Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We've got just a few minutes, so just kind of hanging out. Well, it's noon, so let's go ahead and get started. Hi, happy Monday. Welcome to the second week of the term. I hope things are treating you well on your end. Today we're going to talk about close reading, and we'll use some close reading strategies on the first couple acts of Richard, and hopefully get a little bit of a deeper attention to what's going on in the play. I'm also going to try breakout sessions today. I've never done that before, so who knows? We'll see how it goes. And that'll give you an opportunity to talk to a smaller group by chat or by audio, whatever works best for you all. You should be able in the breakout sessions to use any of the features of the Canvas, the Zoom environment that you normally do. So we'll break out for like 10 minutes. You can talk a little bit and then we'll get back together and kind of see how that went. So that's my plan for today, just kind of a preview of what we'll be doing this week. We'll be doing some coverage of the play during our Zoom sessions. We'll be doing Acts 1 and 2 today, Acts 3 and 4 tomorrow, and then Act 5 on Thursday, and we will not have a Zoom meeting on Friday this week. So yeah, you can go back to bed if you're in my, I think grammar and Shakespeare, neither of us is going to have a meeting on Friday. So anyway, so Friday would be a good work day or to take care of other business that you may have to do. Before I launch into some discussion, kind of checking in with what we're doing in the class, does anybody have questions or comments? Cool. Okay, so again, feel free to chat as the session moves forward. Very happy to answer any questions that may come up or interrupt me. I think I've got the week 1 work scored. So if you're missing points, as you know, maybe I shouldn't say this early in the term, but I really don't care much about deadlines. So if you want to go back and pick up some points, feel free. One thing to know about the way the points work in this class is that there are 1,000 points total. So if you're missing 10 points here or 10 points there, that's like a percentage of your grade. So 1%. So in the end, the little points probably won't matter too much.
Nancy, I was muted. I'm sorry. Is the quiz is due tonight, right? The terminology quiz.
Yes.
And then there's also some reading that goes into that as well, right? That was expected for this next week.
The terminology quiz references a discussion we had last week. I think I touched on all of the terms that are in the quiz, but folks have said there's 2 questions, and the second question's a little difficult because it asks you to apply terms to a section from the play. Okay. So yeah, you can, if you want, the full lecture is available in a Word document in Canvas. You're welcome to go pull it up, have it out. Particularly, I think the poetic terms are a little difficult. So if you want to be looking at that while you take the quiz, totally fine.
I also took Introduction to Poetry with Benton last term, so that might help.
Yeah, so you've got it all down. Yeah. I mean, in my mind, there's just one that's always a really hard one for me to remember, but, you know, you can see what you think, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. What I'll do with that quiz is I'll like after tonight, I'll shut it down so that we can talk about it. I feel a little uncomfortable having folks take it after we've talked about it. And again, the points don't really matter too much. You could probably make it up in extra credit. So anyway, that's kind of my plan for that one. But other than that, I normally don't remove stuff so you can continue to do stuff over the course of the term if you're missing points. Anyway.
Nancy?
Yes.
So just to make sure that I understand, besides the reading that we've been doing, the quiz was the only assignment for last week, or is there a written assignment? Because that's something that's coming up for this week, right? We need to do some writing.
Yeah, so
I've been working my way through all of the stuff in the modules, trying to figure out what I've missed or what I haven't missed. And I started to worry that I missed a writing assignment when going through all the different modules and stuff for week 1. I thought I missed something. So I just want to verify that I didn't miss anything.
Okay, great. That's what I want to talk about right now anyway. So perfect. The assignments for last week were the inbox, and almost everybody did that. Great. If you haven't done it, you can still go do it. The participation, so if you were participating in class all 4 days last week, you have full credit already. If you missed a day or days and didn't go to the participation discussion board and post there, you're missing some points, and you can just go and do those posts now. So, I mean, not now, but, you know, whenever you're ready. We did a self-introduction discussion board, and again, most folks participated in that. So if you have full credit, that's done. And then there was a syllabus quiz, and I think that's everything. If you and so what'll happen, and you'll see when you go back into Canvas or into the grade book, you'll see that I've scored things. And so if you are missing points, the grade book is the way to tell that you overlooked something. And like I said, you can go back at any point and do that. So if you missed the syllabus quiz and I zeroed it out, you can go back and do it. The only thing I'd rather not do is go back to the terminology quiz after we talk about it, because I want you to take the quiz, then we can talk about it, rather than wait for me to give you all the answers. That's just not, you know, I don't know. I'd rather have you try it and then give us a chance to talk about it. So good. So that's how those things are working. And I think now that I've got things scored for week 1, you can kind of see if you have any zeros or missing points. You're welcome to go back and do stuff. Good. Are there other questions about that? Okay, super. So the work that we're doing this week, just as a preview, oh, Sam, I can see your dog. How beautiful.
She is being an extreme bugaboo.
I love seeing pets of all kinds anyway that end up in the videos. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so this week the terminology quiz is due at the end of the evening tonight. There's a quiz due Friday, and the discussions that we're having over the course of this week I think will help you do that. It's a very simple quiz. It just asks you to differentiate argument from evidence, from summary, and from analysis, right? So split those four apart cognitively so you know what the difference is. So that if I tell you, and we're going to get into this today, if I tell you this isn't close reading, this is summary or translation, the facts, we need to pin down the facts of the wording, but we also need to then make meaning out of it, and those are two different things. So I want to make sure everybody's capable of separating those and recognizing the difference. So that's that quiz. It's a very quick one. There's also at the end of the week a quiz on the play. So it's a 10-question quiz. You can have the play open. I don't expect you to memorize anything. There is a summary assignment. So I'll ask you to summarize the play. And in doing that, I'll be asking you to use specific language. So not that, Richard talks about his deformity, but what does he say about his deformity? So I'll be working with you on summary and improving the use of specific language in summary. The one thing that sometimes happens in that summary assignment that kind of cues me about how comfortable you're feeling with the plays is if you are using some supports like SparkNotes or other written summaries of material, what sometimes happens is folks will draw on the language of that source instead of actually just using the play. I'd much rather have you make a mistake about what happens in the play than to take language from an outside source. So if that does happen, I just call you on it. I ask you to redo it, and we talk through how that happened. And I just want to, but it's also sort of a barometer to me about how difficult the plays are for you as a reader. So that conversation will happen around the summaries. The last little bit of writing to do this week is the week 2 participation requires everybody to make one original post. And I want to say let's wait to post until a little later in the week, because you may get some ideas about what you want to say from our class discussion. But you can if you want to go ahead and post in there, that's great. So everyone makes the original post, and then folks that are missing dates can go in and make additional replies after that. And the original post, there's a document called Second Reading Assignment. And there's some themes in there that seem to be good ones to use with Richard. You could pick something different. If you if you want to write on the Bishop of Ely, because that's just what's really motivating you, go for it. That would be a great original post. The themes that are in there right now are Richard's rhetoric, like how he persuades people, how he gets people to do what he wants them to do. Retribution, like how Queen Margaret curses and the curses come true, and how people get punished in the play. Performance, there's a bunch of theatrics that happen in the middle of the play where Buckingham sort of stages that whole performance for the mayor and the citizens. Women, right? We haven't talked a whole lot about the women, but we absolutely can, and that's a theme that we could work with. And then the last one is Richmond versus Richard. And we'll come back to those sort of competing speeches to the troops on Thursday and do some more in-depth work with them. So that may be a topic that's interesting to you. How do you motivate people to go into battle? And Richard and Richmond definitely have a different approach to doing that. So anyway, so that's, if any of those themes strikes your fancy, you might work with it for the original post, and then just take a look at the instructions on the discussion board for how to do that. Okay, questions, comments, concerns?
Before we get too much further along, and it's already week 5, I did want to ask a little bit about Hamlet, because I, every day, have been doing some type of research to try to find the Mel Gibson movie, which is apparently not just, it's really, really unavailable.
It's really,
I even resorted to Facebook to ask any movie collector friends of mine if they have it. So if, I mean,
so what I'd like you to do is watch one, not necessarily that one.
okay, just pick one to watch then. Yeah.
And I posted an announcement last week about that, but it may have gotten buried under other announcements.
I think I tried to go to it, and it takes me to that week 5 module, which says it's locked. So
oh, okay.
I tried to follow that link you put out, but I couldn't get any further to see what information you were saying.
Okay. I will go in and make sure that we have access to that. Yeah, the one that the number 2 version that I would recommend is the Branagh version. It, like I said, it's a word for word version, which is kind of cool. And he does some interesting stuff with Ophelia, which indicates that she and Hamlet have a sexual relationship before the play starts. So that kind of fills in some of the questions people sometimes have about Ophelia and why she reacts the way she does. And Branagh does it by just showing some scenes that don't have any dialogue of the two together. So yeah, so that's a good one. There are plenty of others. Laurence Olivier, Ethan Hawke did a contemporary one that's really good. David Tennant, if you like Doctor Who, did one, and he's always really good. So Benedict Cumberbatch did a live one. I'm kind of keep my eyes open for a video of that one. I hope they'll put a video out. I think he was performing it live a couple years ago. So maybe they'll put a video out and we'll get to see him. Thanks for asking, Sam. Okay, other questions or concerns? Okay, so what I want to do is talk just briefly about close reading. And close reading is the strategy used in literary analysis where we look at words very closely. So we put a small passage sort of under a microscope. We look at the different words, what they mean literally, and then what meaning they make in addition to the literal meaning. So if you think about a scientist, kind of like some of the discussion we had last week about observation, right? So the words are our evidence, and then what we're going to do is interpret them, and we're going to build meaning from them. And so some students, I think, struggle a little bit with that building of meaning, right? I'm asking you not just to tell me what the play says, but I'm asking you to tell me what it does and how it makes you feel and which words are contributing to that feeling and what meaning arises for you from the play. So what you can kind of think about is that you have the facts of the play, the words, and you have the your opinion, right? So there's a blend between the words and your opinion that happens in close reading. That's what I'm really looking for. And as we start to work on the papers, that's going to be really important. So summary isn't enough. You have to actually use your brain and think, how does this work for me? Like, what ideas are arising for me? How does it connect with my personal experience, my life, my philosophy? So this is the sort of art of literary analysis, and it is grounded in a sort of microscopic exploration of wording. Partly what that does is it makes conscious the impact that reading has on us, because if we are impacted, maybe we're angry or we're frustrated or we're feeling all lovey-dovey because there's nice romance going on, or we're repulsed by the romance that's going on. What close reading does is it allows us to kind of see where we're getting those feelings from and explore a little bit how the play causes that to happen, those reactions to happen. In a community of readers like this, we have 24 people today on Zoom, yay. Each one of us is going to have a different reaction to the play as a whole and to the parts of the play. And the thing that's really valuable about that is the quantity, right? So I'm absolutely not looking for you to read my mind and tell me what I think about the play. I truly want to know what you think, and that's where the sort of wealth of this discussion arises. We have 24 versions of our interpretations, and let's use them. Let's share them together. This work, close reading, is also an approximation of what literary scholars do. As we start to, we'll have a look at some literary scholarship later in the term, and you'll see it happen, right? Scholars will take a quote and they'll unpack it and they'll talk to you all about it, and this is why it means what I think it means, and they may duke it out with other scholars who think something else. Right, so they go back to their evidence and pull it up and say, well, if you look at the evidence, clearly my version is the right version, right? So they try to make a case for the interpretation that they're arriving at. Close reading is also a way that I can assess your intellectual engagement with the plays. So I can essentially, by making it explicit how you're getting from point A to point B in your interpretation, I can kind of see those logical steps. If you lay them out for me, it's easier for me to understand the way you're interpreting the play. So there's also sort of a teacherly reason to do close reading as well as a professional reason to do it. So that's close reading in a nutshell. Does anyone have questions about that? I'm gonna show you what I mean momentarily, but I just want to make sure. Does anybody have questions before I do that? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Maybe let me ask you this. Do you want me to go back to the "Now is the winter of our discontent," or would you like me to take a look at Anne's first speech? Do you have a preference? Richard or Anne?
Sorry, it seems I was muted again. I just wanted to say, for the person that was looking for Hamlet, the 1990 version, it does look like it is available on iTunes to rent for $3.99. So that's the only place that I found it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the only place I found it too, but I really don't know what iTunes is.
It's basically just,
I don't have any of that.
Yeah, if you don't have an iPhone, you can still do, yeah, you can still make an account and just watch it on there. I think all that you have to do is link a card or an account or something like that. But yeah, that's one way to watch it.
Thanks, Connor. I don't have an iPhone, so I wouldn't have thought that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't have one either. I honestly detest all things iPhone, but that's just me.
Right, well, you're a professional in the field, so I trust your judgment.
I was thinking that we've talked a lot about Richard, that if we could look at an Anne perspective, that would be cool.
Okay, great. Let me share. I'm going to share that first section. Get rid of that for a second. Okay. So I'm just going to read over the lines just briefly, and then I'm going to pick a few lines to work with, and I'll talk you through the way that close reading works. And then what I'll ask you to do in the breakout sessions is to do a little bit of that yourselves with different parts of the play. Okay, set down your honorable load, if honor may be shrouded in a hearse, whilst I a while obsequiously lament the untimely fall of virtuous Lancaster. Right, so she says, poor key-cold figure of a holy king, pale ashes of the house of Lancaster, thou bloodless remnant of that royal blood, be it lawful that I invocate thy ghost to hear the lamentations of poor Anne, wife to thy Edward, to thy slaughtered son, stabbed by the selfsame hand that made these wounds. Lo, in these windows that let forth thy life, I pour the helpless balm of my poor eyes. Oh, cursed be the hand that made these holes, cursed the heart that had the heart to do it, cursed the blood that let this blood from hence. More direful hap betide that hated wretch that makes us wretched by the death of thee, than I can wish to wolves, to spiders, toads, or any creeping venom thing that lives. Okay, so I'm going to work with some lines from this section. Let me think for a minute. I think what I want to do is work with the windows. I'll start with the windows. Maybe, maybe I'll work with the section as a whole. Let's see, we'll see. But I'll let me start with windows. So let's see, I'm gonna do a little annotation here. Put some boxes around things. So I definitely want to talk about windows. Maybe also balm. Maybe hand. And maybe holes. Yeah, maybe heart. Right, so I'm looking at words that might have some stuff. And maybe I should do blood too, because blood occurs earlier, and I was kind of thinking about this one.
And I was wondering about the more dryful hap bedtide.
Yeah. Tide, that hated wretch, more dark, because that partly because it's hard. Like, what is that saying? Maybe I'm going to take that whole line. Wretch. And then she's playing, there's a nice little use of wretched and wretch. And wolf spiders. Go ahead, Connor, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just thought that what else was interesting was the use of key cold near the very top there. Yeah. It has kind of that piercing sound to it, that same sharp alliteration that you would expect from something like a knife or something like that. So that kind of flows into, you know, the later point talking about cursed hand that made these holes, which seems to suggest that someone's pierced something.
Yes, good. Is there are there any other words that we want to look at? Okay, so there's two things to do. The first is to figure out what the heck the thing is saying, right? So we're going to go for the facts first. And then we're going to work with kind of the way that Connor was working with the language, right? We want to talk about the sounds. We want to talk about the symbolism. We want to talk about some of the stuff that's happening poetically in the lines. So we're going to, and then what meaning arises from that. Okay, so let's start off with, and I don't know, key cold. I don't know what that means, right? So cold, obviously, this is a dead body and the body is cold. It's, you know, hard to stop beating. Blood isn't rushing through the veins.
For me,
so
it says that the key was made out of metal, and so when you have metal that's cold, usually it's that abrupt, very cold feeling. Like when you first touch metal with your hand, it's usually an instantaneous cold, something that almost feels like it might even weld to your hand.
yeah.
So maybe that's the whole idea there, is that when he, you know, key cold is not just cold, it's very cold.
And maybe it's eerie in its coldness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you know, for him to be a holy king at one point in time, but now it's like that whole line of just in the image for me is just a corpse, deathly cold, no longer of any meaning. He's poor now, what once was a holy king.
Yes. And do you want to do anything else with key besides temperature? Right, that would be my question. So we kind of know now what it means. It means cold. It's very cold. But is there anything symbolic about the use of the word key and not some other word? Like you could say ice cold. Why key cold?
Well, keys are meant to open locks. So, I mean, there is a certain, and it's also an indication that there's something key here. So in terms of what is going on and the fact that there's this, that the Lancaster house is basically dead, right? You get that sense that key it basically means that the Lancaster house had to die for something else to be opened. So
okay, so the death has kind of opened up opportunities for others.
Exactly.
We could also see that key as a lock and key, as a closing, like maybe the king had this power and had a key, which gives you the responsibility of accessing that power, and now that's gone, right? So the sort of key to the power has been taken, right? So notice what we just did, right? We have the sort of literal meaning of a cold key, a cold metal. We have a figurative meaning of opportunity and opening. So the lock and the opening, or the lock and the closing. And you can go any of those directions and all of those directions that you want as you do close reading and interpret. One thing that often surprises students is I think you could write a whole paper on these lines alone, period, right? So sometimes students are like, oh, I have to put everything in my paper because it has to be 4 pages. Well, maybe everything's already here. We could do a paragraph on the word key and another paragraph on the word blood, right? So I just want to encourage you to think that way. I'd much rather read a nice 4-page paper on a really short set of lines rather than reading a paper that's trying to do too much with too many parts of the play. Okay, well, let's talk about blood, right? So we get blood in bloodless remnant. Literally, the guy's dead. So blood not moving around. And then we get blood a little later, right? Cursed the blood that let this blood, right? Cursed the blood that let this. So there's this repetition of the image of blood. And again, literally, there's this living person who has made this other guy dead, literally. Okay. But there's also royal blood, right? So it's not just any kind of blood. It's the high mucky muck blood, right? Very important people their blood has been, you know, let out, has been wasted, has been spent. So that, again, maybe this is an image of power. It's an image of life. It's an image of the life of the land, perhaps. What else do you want to do with blood?
I would say that there's also a use of other B words in this. There's blood, there's balm, there's betide. So you could also start linking those words together and trying to draw meanings across those other lines.
Yes, well done. Yeah, so the beast, so blood and balm. Does anybody, do you know what balm is?
It's a type of ointment.
Yeah, like a lip balm, right? It's something that soothes. So aloe vera is an example.
The image that I got right away was when I read that, I thought of embalming fluid or something like that. Ooh. And I thought that was interesting to connect to the dead king.
Nice. Absolutely.
Also, that really leads into that one line where balm rests, which is helpless balm of my poor eyes, which kind of gives a suggestion that, you know, if you have balm over your eyes, you know, the indication there is perhaps, you know, a corpse or someone who's dead or someone who's, he just paints a very kind of macabre imagery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great, right? So this combination of macabre with the soothing, right? They're together in the same place. And literally she's saying, I pour the helpless balm of my poor eyes. So, and there's poor and poor too, right? There's poor, homophones. So like she's crying, literally she's crying. And this thing that should be soothing to her and to the other person involved is helpless, right? It can't, these tears are they're a wasted attempt to soothe. And because of perhaps the embalming that's happened, right? So again, we're working with the literal and it's developing into a larger meaning. When I think the word balm feels really archaic to me, like aside from lip balm, it's not something we use anymore. And yet it's echoing against some biblical passage that balm of Gilead or something like that, right? So there's this echo that may happen as a result of this audience's connection to biblical language where that kind of word happens.
Well, there is also a biblical parable in which Jesus healed a man of blindness by basically rubbing mud over his eyes, or in this way, holy balm over his eyes. So that could be another indication that there is some sort of reference to a biblical text.
Nice.
I was gonna make a comment. So in church, when there's a song and it's called "There Is a Balm," and it's "There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul." So I think, you know, it's this has to do with healing.
Okay.
You know, in some way.
and rejuvenation,
Exactly.
Lifeblood, yeah. And so there may be a resonance, again, for everyone in Shakespeare's audience at the time was some version of Christian, more or less, most people. So there may be an echo that would happen for them because of the familiarity with that kind of language. And so we get not only this sort of narrow tears as balm, but also maybe a sense of that we don't even have a religious comfort happening here, that it's that bad, right? That it's helpless. The balm isn't, I'm not feeling it, you know, it's not comforting to me right now. Great, right? So there's, again, a whole lot we can do with those words. Let's
One other comment
yeah, go
on
ahead.
that. Reaching back to our previous talking point of the Lancaster house having died, and basically that providing opportunity for, you know, some sort of new power to fill in, or a new power to take that key, you know, and basically take over. There is kind of this sense of when you're rejuvenating, when you're allowing for that, you know, healing to occur, you are the argument's almost being made that this is the rejuvenation, that, you know, what this house has died, but in that place you're rejuvenating a new house, you're creating something new, you're healing the land through this new power. So I think that there's probably even more context to even draw in the previous analysis that we did into this.
Yeah.
So you even draw those larger sweeps of the brush and kind of even create an even larger picture of what you're looking at here.
So while Anne doesn't feel solace and comfort now, the comfort is coming in the form of Richmond. You could tie the whole play together with that idea of balm.
And that actually is what forms a really good thesis, I think. But
yeah, nice, well done. Okay, let's look. I'm going to talk just briefly about more direful hap betide that hated wretch, again, because that's a difficult line, and see what we can do with it. And then I want to leave enough time to do a little bit of breakouts work. So I'm going to shut up pretty quickly, but I'm not quite sure what I think about that line. So I'm going to talk to you about it and see where we get. That hated wretch, I think she means Richard, right? That this guy that caused the problem. Okay, so the end of the line I'm kind of okay with. More direful hap betide. I think betide means to happen, right? And hap is stuff that happens, and direful is bad stuff. So I think she's saying, literally, I hope bad stuff happens to this guy. Okay, that being said, why these words? Well, maybe because they're poetic and Shakespeare's being poetic. Maybe the word dire, right? Dire makes me think of things that are not just bad, but are really awful, like verging on loss of life. Like it's dire. The emergency is really, really happening. And I want something really, really bad, that bad, loss of life bad, to happen to this guy. So the word dire is helping to make the emphasis on the fact that she hates this guy and wants him to have bad things happen. And then maybe betide, again, it sounds kind of old-fashioned, right? Almost like an Old Testament God. There's something back there that underneath the language that, again, feels kind of biblical.
Like it's to befall, have dire things to befall upon this wretched.
Yes, yes. Befall is a good synonym. Betide almost feels like news coming, like tidings coming. So there's also this word tide that's in the word that we could play with a little bit.
I think you could play with also imagery of tides, like oceans moving. You know, this is a large change that has occurred here, and so the tides have changed in that sense, and that is again, I think that Shakespeare uses a lot of very specific words to not only paint imagery but also to paint tone. And betide is a toneful word, I think, in this context. And so is direful, because if you look at direful, I mean, there's a very specific link I mean, you take out one letter and you have die in the very, very first part of diaphragm. So in that sense, you can also, you know, again, it keeps in this theme of heart, blood, key, cold, corpse. You know, it's this death of an old tyrant and the, you know, rejuvenation or creation of something new. So I think that there's a lot of good synthesis there.
Well, even when you were saying direful and betide together, you can hear the vowel sound, the I that's in both of them. Again, maybe linking those two together, putting some emphasis. Nice. Okay, does that make sense? That's what close reading is. It really is just, let's go really deep. And this is how English majors geek out, right? This is kind of like what's fun for us, is to look at this stuff and take it apart and think about it. And so I would encourage you to remember how, like one, that we do go deep, and I'm inviting that depth. And two, that this isn't the same as summary. Summary will help us translate Shakespeare's language, but it won't take us to the meaning making that we need to do literary analysis. As we get a hold of these words and play with them, we start to figure out there's some thematic elements happening, there's some meaning happening, and maybe that's the kind of thing we want to talk about. What's Anne doing here? And maybe how does this speech map onto what Margaret's doing? These are bad times, and these women are telling the truth about their experience of these times, and maybe that's something important in the play. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do breakout sessions. I'm gonna try to set this up so that you can talk about, in fact, I'm not gonna work too hard today. I think what I'd really like you to do in your breakout session, I'm gonna have Zoom set up a breakout group for you that's automatic. And then I want you to go into that breakout group and pick a few lines, like 4 lines, 5 lines in a section. Let's not do the Now is the Winter because we've done that one. Let's not do the Anne one because we've done that one, but maybe pick something elsewhere in the first 2 acts. Maybe go back to Clarence, or maybe go to Margaret. Or maybe take a look at that odd scene with the citizens kind of reacting to the royal families killing off each other. That might be an interesting sequence to look at. So pick something, have a conversation about 1, what does it mean? But then 2, which words are important? And then we'll get back together just very briefly and see, you can tell me how it went. Okay, yeah, nod and smile. Yes, Nancy, that's totally fine. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Here we go. Breakout sessions, we're gonna have, let's see, there's 24. Let's do 5 rooms. Oh, maybe I should, is anybody using a Chromebook? Let me ask that question. Is anybody on a Chromebook today? Okay, so this should work except maybe for Chromebooks. And if anyone does have a Chromebook down the line, I can make it happen there as well. Okay, I'm gonna create rooms. Oops, options. I think we don't have a whole lot of time left. So I'm gonna give you 7 minutes to have a conversation with each other. You'll get a 60-second countdown when it's time to come back. And you can, I'm gonna move you automatically into the room. I think you can come back at any point you want. And if you need me to be in your room with you, I think there's a button in there that allows you to invite me to join you. Okay, so again, what I'd like you to do, have a look at a small passage. You can chat, you can talk with audio, either way or both, and then we'll come back and check in after. Okay? All right, here we go. And you might need to click join if you haven't.
Hello.
Hello, how did it go?
It went
Pretty
good.
good. A little
Fun.
short, but pretty good.
Okay, so were you able to communicate with each other?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Did you try chat or did you talk?
Oh, we
We
talked.
did a little both.
Okay, good.
Are you being good? Forgetting that I'm not muted and I'm talking to my cat.
It happens to the best of us. So I think since we're up against the top of we're at our 12:50 now, what I'll do tomorrow is start off our discussion with maybe some ideas that arose in your brief conversations today, and we'll play a little bit more with breakout sessions with a little bit more time in the future. So did anybody try to screen share? Did that work, Ella?
I did.
Yeah, Connor did, and it worked really well for the rest of us.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how he did it, but it was great.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll maybe play with that a little more and see if we can get our, I don't know, our tech savvy to grow. Are there any
I'm
questions
sure.
before we quit?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Then I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day.
Great. Have a good one, Nancy.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Take it easy.
Bye, thanks, Nancy.
Bye, thank you.